time for mittens. As previously, I put several holes into the camel. The stupid way. Now I have the power. In a less than ideal form, this particular chuck is more intended to be used on a drill, so it is fairly weighty and enough so that it's expecting more magnet than this screwdriver has to hold it in place. If I leave it dangling for a moment, it will slip out. It grips for a moment, but inevitably the weight manages to rip its way out of there. It'll do, though. It will serve the purpose. But with keyless. For this, it is adjusted entirely by spinning this bit independently of the main body of it, which then works out quite well for tightening and loosening. Also introduces its own share of complications, since now I have this much weightier thing that I'm piloting around while attempting to bore holes. Bird. I do not expect I'm going to try and just lay this down in two-hand and apply all available hand torque to the body of this thing. That would impose a fair degree of peril. I suppose peril which can be mitigated by having some sort of structure for this to stand on, gunk or otherwise. There's some pilot gunk for now. Putting further holes into the camel more effort efficiently, that's gonna be the bulk of the goal for the session. Just over an hour or two, probably throw all of the remaining pilot holes I would like into this, have it nicely perforated and ready to be moved on with. The lever remains in a wonderful state of near completion, just need some paint touch-ups. So we'll save finishing that for once this is finished going through all the craft work and is ready to start being painted itself. And I can just set up 4 paints on a day. Alright. Let us determine how well this is going to work out, if at all. Or also, I suppose, yeah, if I'm not going to use the full length of this, may as well detach it and then just take this by the chunk. Use it as a weird hand tool of its own. The important thing is I have a proper full grip that I can grip it, force across, instead of grabbing it by itself. No more of that foolishness. We find new foolishness. Go forward. Alright, so we kind of drew an arc outward. What do I do left wing? Where do I put these holes? eke out a pattern. Gotta start somewhere. Let's just go ahead and drive into the center. The sheer weight of this thing is also nice for getting it started. I don't have to put manual pressure onto it to get it, biting in and engaged. Gravity does that for me. Today's musical accompaniment is once again the Victoria 2 soundtrack on shuffle. It's on topic since the Camel, the tool of the First War, and thus the subject of a late-game Victoria, to perhaps make its glorious debut in late-game Automania, or any further Victoria campaigns that I play in the future, as attention continues to drift about the map games. Certainly help if I could get both hands onto the bit. Don't quite trust the goo play to hold this thing too firmly when I'm then putting as much force on it as this generates by being here. Delicate piece of work, this Camel. I think for this wing, what I'm gonna do, get a couple of holes, just pilot holes running in parallel, and then I will try to use them to kind of carve like lengthwise sections out of the wing. So like since I on the side I put scratches, lengthwise in parallel. So the thought will be that any damage to this wing occurred from the head-on or from behind. It will use the pilot holes going through there to instead like try to scour out sections between the ribs, kind of skeletonize it a little bit. There we go, there's my way through there. Much easier. One hole. We're low, too high. One wing will have gotten it slightly worse than the other. Out of the four. Right, just occurred to me, the move here is not to give the entire body of the aircraft a foot to sit on. To put something between the two wings to absorb stress. Filler piece to carry the load. If I do another battle damage model in the future, will perhaps endeavor to declare such an effort in advance. Then I can put holes in things while they're separate. Pre-stress all the parts and then assemble them together. Oh! It's quite weighty. Handled with care. Also looking for an opportunity to loosen up my grip on it. Let it spin more freely without, say, having the hexagonal bit there grinding its edges against my fingers. Alright, there is a 2. Dunk. And there. That up. That point to grip from, then a final hole hereabouts. Then I'll consider putting more holes into the tailplane there. All in all, pretty satisfactory how the defrosting of these model projects has gone. Pretty on pace to have them completed by the end of the summer at least, and then there'll be 2 more objects to raffle off to and then out of the way for the duration of the winter, during which I can put laid back hobby time into Europa Zero and the efforts there. And then the next time the season's warm, be back at it again with a fresh couple of kits. This model session happening the day after wrapping up with XCOM Apocalypse. Fascinating piece of work. Tried many good ideas poorly. A relic of its times. A road never traveled because they did a poor job of paving it. Forgot to put up a sign to let people know it was there. There's third hole. Easily done. My pilot holes into the left wing. Further work on those will be more of a knife and file job. Kind of whittle them out into longer gouges. Flying. Now to do a little more harm to the tailplane. Welcome. This is the first plane model I've attempted to build. There will be more to follow after it, in time. I will endeavor to make many small things. But yeah, Apocalypse, it tried. Pride failed and was forgotten. But perhaps could be redeemed. Really looking forward to Open Apocalypse. That's able to pull together and deliver a product that would be probably a foundation for some sort of return of the ideas therein. get them cleaned up and tuned and made sensible, then who knows, maybe if more people have seen the potential that was in there, perhaps demand will emerge for many of the commercial successors to the franchise to take their own shot at city defense. Alright, there's a hole in that one. I don't want to use these holes as holes themselves, but instead as foundation to also do some more tearing up of the pieces. I think the whole rear bit there is going to end up pretty nicely shredded. Anyway, disassemble that. Rustle various other objects. Then get out the files. Files and knife. And from them, the progress will begin. Well, resume. Time for Whitland. I'm gonna be grinding away at this one. I'll use a grinding tool. The approach isn't going to be like cutting discrete slices as you do in actual woodland. And what you do in woodland, because like wood has its own structure, it's fibrous, it has grain and so forth. So shaving slices off of wood is more useful. This is plastic, and it's relatively continuous and homogeneous in its chemical structure. There's no directionality to plastic, or at least most kinds of plastic. All goo is the same. is the Victoria 2 soundtrack. It's individual songs on shuffle in a helpful YouTube playlist. It's starting to make progress already. Already, bit of that first pass is starting to elongate. And the good thing is that if it starts to get irregularly shaped, that's a feature. It just adds to the immersion, the authenticity of the damage. There we go. Now if we let's see if I can get a camera angle that nicely shows that, yeah, got a nice divot forming there now. Yeah, starting to wade into the curvature. I do believe that that is not any of the dedicated carriers, even like the early first generation ones in that image there of many camels on a deck. That's just clearing space on the bow of another ship to launch many seaplanes, my understanding. It's a flight of camels. It's very early in the history of naval aviation. And also that's a length of deck that works out. since it's camels, they're very lightweight. They hardly need any speed at all to get it in the air. So you take that boat, rev up the engines, point it into the wind, and then there you go. Camels will fly. That setup probably doesn't even have a launch catapult. It's just relying on their own speed, such as it is. Alright, so at this point, I've got a pretty good... Yeah, let's see if I can line that up. Thus-wise, yeah, you can see my hand through that. I'm gonna flip it over and do some matching work, kind of shaving away at this forward bit, but I can have most of a hole that's like going through lengthwise while still leaving the front and back edges of the wing, thus hopefully maintaining some structural integrity. It would be a shame for the deliberately chewed up model to then actually fall apart when in travel or when sitting on a shelf and nudged. To strike a balance. The goal is to convey something that got terribly chewed up, but still managed to make it home, or at least safely to the ground. And then also to be capable of surviving travel through mail. Alright, that actually works out nicely for the thought of leaving that connecting strut that snapped off earlier, just leaving that gone, because now, oh, that bullet would have gone right through that strut and murdered it what good, and barely avoided severing the other one. This tiny pilot is very lucky. See, it all fits together in the long run. All part of the play. Some of these control surfaces are probably wound up jammed. Jammed or fused, or whatever mechanisms are there to connect them to the control column have been cut. Pilot probably more down to need to control the plane by shifting his own weight around. Slightly nudge it one way or the other. Because what do you think is helping him operate this? The hydraulics? No, absolutely not. There's wires, there's tension, there's maybe a gear or two. No room for anything fancy. Just the basics. Just a plane. If you think this looks bad, you should see the other guy. If the shop had, like, a Fokker triplane, or what have you, on the shelf at the time, probably would have gotten it and then built the two of these as a pair. He is your rival. You're Bill Bishop and your man Fred Rick. Of course, it would then be even more perilous to try and reach in and scrape battle damage onto 3 sets of wings. That's some advanced craft work. Alright, there's a second bullet hole, elongated. Not as pronounced as the first one. Bit of a lighter hit. And on to the third. Let's also make sure that I remove a bunch of the extra cruft that was lurking around the edges of the holes after they were drilled. Clean out all those bits. All the scraps. Yeah, looking good. Throughout the whole Minius building process, these have probably been the most useful tools in the repertoire. It's a lot that you can get done with just some patience and a file. Back, relax, right away. It is, in a way, the basis of all tools. Rough surface. Yeah, it's pretty alright. That's fine. Well, where, like, if you're looking at it just completely head on, you can't see the hole at all. And you incline up, or incline down, and there's the damage. You can look at that and think, oh yeah, the aerodynamics have been compromised. It's just Probably not terribly pleasant. Hit, but it's not bad. Not yet. Only one health matters. The rest of the bird is there for you to spend. These holes will stay relatively clean, since they're supposed to be just shot straight up through. Smooth the edges off of them. Otherwise, I don't need to, like, extend them out. Bunch of bits left on the upper. This. That one. Do a little bit more brazing. And scrape those out of there. Like that mostly got him. Yeah, that did it. Well, that's foundations of damage to all the forward bits of the plan, and gouges on the sides were already there. I'll further work with those. It's going to be done. The process of painting them up. Go about colorizing all of that. That'll add further necessary texture and information. Decide what's burnt, charred, what's breaded. Well, that just leaves doing yet further damage to the tail plane. And then barely reattaching it. just to remain aware. That's that side. That is this side. Alright. Make the damage to the respective elevators match up with what was done further ahead on that side of the aircraft. On that one, the more clean vertical. Get you back into frame. On that one, the more clean vertical hit. On this one, the more elongated glancing hit. Going to be real tricky to do on such a small and thin piece of material. I don't have the rest of the body of the plane to help provide leverage. My grip. Further helpful thing to add to the repertoire should get a couple of clamps. Proper, solid metal grips. Slowly convert this desk into a workbench. Any room can be a shed. State of mind. For now, make do. The most important tool of all, the mind, and the knife of various forms. Brain, hand, knife, that covers most of the fundamentals. There's a relatively short list of tasks you can't eventually accomplish with those 3 items. Eventually. In principle, glue is just many small hands. Try to set myself up. Foundation here. Tube is making its way down. I will need further adhesive. Then move on to starting new kits. The medium future. Didn't even go on to sections that mattered here. Let me place the goo on the receiving side. Come on. Alright, that's a tape. Your priorities are entirely out of whack here, tape. Stick first to the plane, and then not at all to the human. Come on. Don't be like this. Come on. Complications. Alright, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere? Maybe? Now we're getting. Keeping in mind that the end goal is depicting something that is only very barely keeping itself together. Via kind prayers and harsh language. Each of these difficulties is in fact a feature. All according to plan. And just very thoroughly immerse that connection point in the goo. And there we go. There's the thing to know. There's to discover a problem. Alright, so this tube is very dead. The back of it is actually ruptured, and it is leaking from its upper bits. Okay, this is a garbage tube. This is your final act. Farewell, noble adhesive. Stand by a moment while I get this disposed of. Alright, back in place after a quick round of memorial rites for that adhesive. Served well through approximately 3 models. Died valiantly, confirming that, yeah, I'm gonna need to make another Rip the old supply shop. Acquire further material. Alright, so there's a bunch of tape wadded into place to kind of brace that in position. Starts to nicely highlight where we put the holes in there. Slight differences in geometry between the two sides. So ideally, that will suffice to let all the bonds form, and then the tail plane will be reattached as loosely as possible and remain there throughout decoration. And with that potentially accomplished, that's all the bodywork that I would like to do to the camel. Needs time to allow all those connections to solidify. Then it'll be time for decoration. And it will be ready to go eventually to some good, loving home that is willing to accept the street rescue of World War I aircraft. It had a rough life out there over Belgium. Needs a warm hangar. The extent of goals for this session, particularly given that I now need to, you can notice here the two slightly darkened spots there. That's where the tube leaked further goo onto the towel before I'd noticed the rupture. That's what kind of started to tip me off to the problem there. But yeah, further efforts are, well, going to be paint-wise, so I'll resupply and set up for that, and next week there will be final touch-ups on the Lee, after which it is done and ready to go. Then the further work in conveying the damage. Wounded bird. Venom camel. Quick bit of minis.